Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, September 15th, and I hope everybody was able to get away and just relax and have a good weekend. No, that's probably not true, but I'm going to hope for it anyway. So, the first thing I want to talk about is the new USDA projections that came out. And last week, towards the end of the week, there was this idea that there was a flash sale to China for soybeans, and that made some people happy because that put China on the books. But it turns out that that actually happened back in January, and the USDA, for some reason, sent the information out, even though, again, that sale had happened back in January. I think that brings me to kind of the point that the USDA, unfortunately, due to budget cuts, whether you believe they were necessary or not, changing people from the Washington, D.C. location to other areas around the country, the USDA is in disarray. And the fact that they added an extra million acres onto the corn planted crops, it's in disarray. And we know this. We can sit there and say it's all okay because it's in the name of a budget cut, but the data and information we are currently getting from the government is getting worse. It is getting less reliable. So we've got to take that into consideration. We've got to understand that if you used to count on data coming out of the USDA or any of the branches of government, our information's becoming less reliable. Now people can sit there and say, oh, it was always horrible. It was always off. That I'll give you. Slightly. There were never the massive problems. I won't say never. That was unfair. But the massive problems are becoming more consistent. Instead of one-offs, they're every single time. We're going to have some problems. A lot of people depend on the information that gets to them through government agencies. And we have made an effort to strip those government agencies of employees, of money. So the data that we used to get from them is no longer going to be reliable. But I'm sure you don't need to worry about it. Some private enterprise will come in and offer to charge you a lot more money for that data information. Okay, so I'll stop there. But the other issue is we had the issue last week with Charlie Kirk, and people got all heated about what they think they might know or what they may know or what somebody's dog told them about the situation. It's a tragedy that somebody dies, whether they're a political figure or not. Political activist, political arsonist, whatever you want to call him, depending upon whether you sided with him or against him. He had become a prominent figure. He had made a lot of money selling his division. So I don't want to justify what happened to him because there is no justification for that. There is no justification for assassinating someone. But this is going to become more of a problem in our country. And if you think it only happened because he was this or he was that, or the person who shot him was this or the person who shot him was that, well, you've bought into the division, and I'm sorry, it's just going to get worse. At some point, we have got to recognize the fact that we, as Americans, need to come together. I don't know who it's going to be. In the 80s, growing up in the late 70s and early 80s, it was the Soviet Union. We could all get behind the fact that they were the bad guy. And then they disappeared, and we no longer had a bad guy. So we had people decide that the other Americans were the bad guys. And we as a country need to get out of the fact that we need to somehow vilify somebody. Because if we can't vilify them, that means we're not doing our job. Well, you know what? It's time to come together. Or it's time to admit we never want to come together. And I said the word want. We will not want to come together, so we won't come together. Those are our two options. Either we do it, or we admit that we just don't want to. And then if we don't want to, we need to go ahead and talk about what's the next phase, because it can't be together. As was said long ago, a house divided cannot stand on itself, on its own. We need to come together. That's the preferred option. But that means some of us have to take our beliefs and put them in our back pocket and say, hey, you know what? What you want doesn't hurt me, so I shouldn't have a veto vote over it. Because what you do doesn't personally affect me. All right, well, I will get off my high horse. You have yourselves a wonderful day. Thank you very much.